Hello and good afternoon. We're going to be getting started, so if you want to get your beverages, snacks, please feel free to do so. Thanks for coming to today's program. My name is Christine Gerlach. I'm the Executive Administrative Coordinator here at the JES. It's my pleasure to kick off the event today. I'm here to do three things: go over some housekeeping notes, tell you about upcoming JES events, and introduce today's presenter. First, some housekeeping. If you need assistance during the event, please find one of our volunteers who will be happy to help you. Reminders for the Q&A portion following the presentation. Please raise your hand to be called on and wait for the mic to come to you. This is to help those using hearing devices to hear your question. And please keep your questions brief and concise and refrain from offering lengthy statements. A couple upcoming events. Monday, March 17th at 7, one of our scholars in residence, Dr. David Frew, will be here at the JES to present Lake Erie Fish Wars, Shots Fired at Local Fishermen. There will be no green beer, I'm sorry. Tuesday, March 18th at 6, Ramey Fellow Catherine DiVittorio will be presenting a lecture at the Corey Higher Ed Council, realizing the need for an autism support school and hub in rural Pennsylvania. And finally, I would like to introduce you to our presenter, Tina Mengine, the CEO of Erie County Redevelopment Authority, who has led efforts to transform the organization into a progressive force for economic development in northwestern Pennsylvania. Since 2019, she has championed equitable and inclusive growth, helping hundreds of businesses expand through innovative grants and loans. Her career also includes roles as Regional Director of the Governor's Action Team, Vice President for University Advancement at Edinburgh, and Chief of Staff for a U.S. Representative and the City of Erie Mayor. She serves on various boards and received multiple Community Impact Awards and holds leadership certifications. So let's thank her for coming and give her a warm JES welcome.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody, for coming. Before I get started, I want to introduce James Sherrod, who's going to co-present with me today. James is Executive Director of the Martin Luther King Center, but in this role, he is a co-founder of the Minority Community Investment Coalition, known as MCIC. MCIC is the brainchild behind Slovakia Opportunity Park and the Grow Erie project, which we're going to talk about today. James, thank you for joining me. So I might need some help with this. There we go.
You got it.
So I'm going to turn it over to James to give you a little bit of history on Grow Erie and on MCIC before we delve into the technical portion of the program.
Good afternoon, everyone. As Tina said, my name is James Sherrod. I'm the Executive Director of Bayfront NATO Martin Luther King Center, and I wear several other hats that I won't explain to you at this time. But I'm excited to be here today to present one of the initiatives that the Minority Community Investment Coalition is currently working on. And I say currently because we have some other initiatives that are going to be coming down the pike. If you don't know any history behind the Minority Community Investment Coalition, we got our start in 2016. We purchased Joyce Savacchio Business Park at the time, renamed it Opportunity Park, because we wanted to create opportunities in that area where our facility is being built currently. Our initiative, our plan was to grow, thrive, and shine. Grow came from the third to the forefront. Initially, we were looking at shine, which would have been solar initiatives. But because of the need within the community, because of being a food desert, and because we had so many community gardens, and we had an opportunity to partner with a business to get started on this here Grow Erie project. We'll get into more detail about that, but our mission is to promote equitable development, invest in people and places, and establish sustainable social enterprises, with the initiative being social economic development, okay? when we purchased the park, we renamed it Opportunity, as I said, so that we could get everyone within the community involved. You see in this picture, we have a lot of neighbors out and a lot of dignitaries out for our groundbreaking and the start of the Minority Community Investment Coalition GROW project. GROW Erie is made up of the Booker T. Washington Center, Urban Erie Community Development Corporation Quality Life Learning Center, and the Martin Luther King Center. That would be Chantel Hilliard, Gary Horton, and myself. We're excited about the GROW Erie project, but before we got into the GROW Erie project, I just want to give you a little background on what we did prior to that. We actually did our Thrive initiative, which is our health initiative. We jumped into COVID in 2019 with the health department in our hospitals here in town, because, you know, as you all know, there was not much knowledge about the coronavirus, and a lot of people that lived within our service area, from Bird Drive to Cranberry and from 28th Street down to the waterfront, were being affected by COVID. And so we did a whole education program, we did screening, and then eventually we worked with the hospitals, UPNC, AHN, and LECOM to provide services to these people. During that time period, we also provided about 20,000 emergency meals, about 57,000 health screenings, 16,000 COVID tests, and about 7,000 vaccinations. So that was our Thrive Health Initiative. So as we jump into the purchase of the park out of bankruptcy court in 2019, there was a study done by the Grassroots Coalition that stated that there need to be some impact in that area, some development in that area, and so that's what we intended to do. We also worked with Cornell University Engineers Without Borders to make sure that this project was something that would be needed within our community. Then came along Integrated Agricultural Systems. They have a proprietary system that Tina will get into more about later on, about how we could grow leafy greens and microgreens within our facility. This is all new to us, so we had to bring a professional on, and so we brought Tina on as our consultant. And since she's come on, we've been moving forward at light speed. So just want to give Tina a big shout out. Thank you for being a part of this year project and getting us to where we are today. So she's going to get into the meat and potatoes, and I'll answer any questions as we go along. So welcome, Tina, back up.
Thanks, James. James is being a little bit humble. You're true. He and his partners, the co-founders, really had a vision, and they did it the right way. And I tell people this all the time. They didn't say, oh, this is a food desert, we've got a vacant lot here, let's just put up a greenhouse. They actually, working with the Eastside Grassroots Coalition, surveyed hundreds of neighbors, took over a year to really understand the community and its needs. They took the time to say, this is what's needed, not what they thought was needed. And then, and the consultant that they worked with at the time, who works for us now, Amy Kazula-Kern, spearheaded that portion of the project. She really worked hard to involve the community, get their input, brought in Cornell University, who then expanded on that, did some research. They then connected MCIC with Integrated Agriculture Systems, or INTAG, who has the science behind all this. So this was a process to get to this point, well thought out, heavily involved the neighbors and the community. And so today, and I encourage you, and we're going to have an open house in April, but if you drive by Sabacchio Park, which is at 18th and Downing, you'll see a 20,000 plus square foot facility that houses the most advanced aquaponics technology in the United States. They operate in Canada, They have some educational programs in Pennsylvania, but this is the first commercial facility. As part of this commercial facility, what came out of that research was the need to give the neighbors year-round growing. So next step is to build a 3,000 plus square foot community garden that the neighbors will run themselves. It will be self-run. It'll be 24/7, 12 months out of the year, so that all those gardens that James mentioned that are little plots of land in backyards can now be operating 12 months out of the year. So it's really a fantastic project. It's actually maybe my favorite project, mostly because I can turn it over to these guys in a month or so and I'll be done. So what is the difference between aquaponics and hydroponics? Aquaponics uses water, right? And it also is organic in nature, so that there are no chemicals involved. We are using the waste from fish to process as fertilizer, and that then fertilizes the plants. It allows them to be, it gives them a higher quality, superior nutrients. It recycles itself, so it's low impact on the environment. And it actually allows the produce to grow faster, so we get increased yields and a faster turnaround. Microgreens, which we'll be growing in this facility, turn around in 5 to 7 days. It's incredible. Some of the leafy greens and the herbs and that take anywhere from 3 to 6 weeks. But even 3 weeks or 6 weeks is an extraordinarily fast time. So it allows a 20,000 square foot facility to operate as if it's twice or 3 times the size. Very efficient and very good for you because you will not have all those chemicals. And I don't want to just talk here for an hour, so if there's questions, please raise your hand or shout them out, except for the hecklers over there. So how this works is you take the fish waste, you run it through a bioreactor, and this is actually the bioreactor in our facility, and that processes it, and then it gets filtered out to the greenhouse. And these are on floating ponds, which the team just over here, Joe and Audie, just built. So we are actually planting seeds next week. We're going to be growing next week. So this is the bioreactor. It's patented technology from INTAG, from the organization I mentioned earlier, this is their first commercial facility in the United States. So we've been doing test runs. It's ready to go. Originally, we were going to have our own fish farm on site. Due to funding, we had to put a hold on that portion of it, although the building is built for it. But we will be utilizing fish sludge from the Pennsylvania Fish and Boat Commission right here in town. So partnered with the state on that. So that's Joe and Audie, our 2 first hires, behind Ed and then Abby. We've got 4 hires starting last couple weeks. Raise your hands, guys. They're very shy. Audie and Abby are graduates of Gannon and Penn State, respectively, with degrees in biochemistry or something. Some science degree. So what you have here is a state-of-the-art facility that has very low emissions. These are movable trays right here. And back here are the ponds. They're floating ponds so that the growth happens over there. I'm not sure of the whole technical process. We were supposed to have one of the scientists from INTAG here today, but he bagged on us at the last minute. So you're going to have to bear with James and I. This is what it will look like in about 3 weeks. The facility will be fully operational and growing, and we'll be selling, we hope, greens to Curtsy Foods and a number of other folks.
Yeah, and because we have the rolling EBB flow benches for the nursery and the seeding production and the rolling beds, it allows us to maximize the space usage within the facility. So we don't have actual walkways. The beds move to the side, and you walk through those as you go to, take a look at what's going on within the facility. So we thought about everything. They thought about everything when they put this together. So it's maximizing that 17,000 square feet that's in that facility.
These rolling beds are technology out of the Netherlands, and we actually had these shipped here. So it's very advanced technology. So those are the actual floating beds to your left there that are in our facility. That's actually a photograph from the Grow Erie site. They're big ponds, and they actually move as well. So you take out one unit, move them down and around they go, so that you can, there is no wasted space in this place. It's actually pretty efficient. Each one of those pods, those trays here, the multiple trays, we have 2 of them. Each one holds about 20,000 plants. So at any given time, we'll be growing 40,000 plants, not including the microgreens. They're in a separate room. This is the microgreen room with the top photos, actually the one at Grow Erie. Microgreens, as I said, they're in a they'll turn around in 5 to 7 days. They're in a different controlled environment. They operate a little bit differently, but we will be growing microgreens specific to our clients' needs. Curtsy Foods, who's one of our initial clients, has given us a list of the items they need that they sell the most of. So all the microgreens, the basil, Thai basil, Italian basil, leafy greens are items that have been requested by Curtsy. And we've been test growing the microgreens over the last couple of weeks. So this was about a little over $5 million project. Originally started out about $3 million. And like everything else, it increased as we went along. But we've been very fortunate to get a lot of support from the local community as well as the state. We've got a number of Department of Agriculture grants from the state. They're intrigued by the technology and very interested in this. I see Perry Wood here. The Gaming Revenue Authority had given us a grant. Erie Community Foundation was the first dollar in. They gave us multiple grants. So this has been a big undertaking, as James can attest to.
Yeah, it wasn't easy getting all the funding together, from the public sector and the private sector, but we're thankful that, this $5.2 million project is, just about 100% operational. Next month, we'll have an open house, as Tina said. Some of the backers behind it, as she said, was the Erie Community Foundation, Erie Insurance, ECRDA, Curtsy Foods, Diverse Erie, of course, Tina, with her assistance through the Redevelopment Authority. Porter Consulting was our consultant on the project. And without them being involved, I don't know that we would have been limited on the number of mishaps or things that we had to address during the process. So Porter Consulting was very instrumental in getting us to this point. UPNC Health Plan, first priority. Highmark Health was one of the contributors, along with a slew of banks: First National, Erie Bank, Key Bank, Northwest Bank, Marquette Savings Bank. Our contractor, E. Austin, has just been on spot and getting things done. Although we are a little behind schedule, we had hoped to have the open house this month, but with everything, the plan always doesn't work the way you want it to go. But the end result is what we're looking at. We don't want to rush things. We want to make sure that this facility, as the first prime facility in the United States developed by INTAG, will be exactly what we want it and what they want it. So we're excited about that.
Yeah, and the city of Erie, you can't forget
Yeah, the
them.
city of Erie.
They've been extremely supportive and generous. So for those of you that don't know, Spokio Opportunity Park is at 18th and Downing. It sits directly across from Roger Young Field, which is a city-owned park that's essentially been inactive for years.
It's been a forgotten area.
Neglected. It's adjacent to Buffalo Road, sits across from public housing. It's one of the poorest, if not the poorest neighborhood in the city. Neglected, underinvested in, disinvested in actually. So this project means a lot for a lot of reasons. We believe it will be a catalyst for revitalization in that neighborhood. The city's working on a Buffalo Road revitalization plan. There's been a lot of talk about putting money back into Roger Young Park, and we hope that it will provide also jobs for the neighbors. So what we've done here in just a couple short years is raise $5 million, build a brand new state-of-the-art, high-tech aquaponics facility, create a new industry in Erie County. It's a social enterprise, so MCIC will benefit from the profits, put that money back into the neighborhoods that they serve, rather than into the pockets of shareholders. It is a true public-private partnership, not just in terms of those that have committed funds, but also in terms of working with Curtsy Foods and other private enterprises, businesses who will benefit from it. So let me tell you a little bit about Curtsy Foods, one of the largest, if not the largest, regional food distributor, right? Offices in Cleveland and Rochester and Erie and down south in Kentucky. They're huge. Most of their produce is bought from Mexico and California. So by the time it gets to the East Coast, it's not nearly as fresh. It's cost them a lot of money, both in terms of travel and moving it here. By buying, and what we're going to grow here is less than 1% of what they purchase. So if they buy 100% of what we grow, it's still only 1% of the produce they move. It's going to save them money and time. It's going to keep, this will produce after a year approximately $1 million in sales. So they'll keep that $1 million in the community instead of going to California or Mexico or wherever they're buying from. And the food will be fresher for their clients, right? So it's a win-win all the way around. Our first 4 hires in this row here, we hope to have 12 people by the end of the year. It's a good project on so many levels. And then if you add to it that the Spokio Opportunity Park was a brownfield site, a contaminated, dirty site that had to be cleaned up, we have done and checked almost every box conceivable from a community and economic development perspective. That's why I love this project, because it checks every single box. When we add the greenhouse this spring, which is about $600,000, As I mentioned, the neighbors will run that. They'll grow their own foods. There's a lot of new Americans in that area. They'll grow their native foods year-round now. It's really a good opportunity for them to also think about creating their own businesses. They're already talking about farmers markets and where they might be able to grow, not just for their own families, but also to sell. So it's just a win all the way around. This project, in its entirety, it takes up about 3 acres of a 19-acre park. The original goal was to maybe put some solar on that park, do other things. We now are convinced that this will be able to grow and we can add bays and just keep growing and growing. So we'll see where that goes, but that's our thinking. We actually designed it so that it could expand. Yes, ma'am?
Are you going to do any solar?
Please
We
wait
don't
for the
know
mic.
yet. We don't know yet. We have talked to a number of solar companies. They actually need a little more space than we can offer them, although they can take a few of those acres. So there's a section on the north side that could possibly be solar. And so we've talked to several companies, and in fact, just recently another company called us and asked us about it, if we were still interested. Trying to get in before all of the federal grants and tax credits go away. So timing is everything. So, whoops. As I mentioned, this is a profitable venture that will lead to reinvestment in the community. The modeling indicates we'll have profit within 12 months, which is really kind of astounding. The goal, additional bays to continue to grow it. James and his team are looking at housing and have actually purchased a dozen or so lots in their neighborhoods to look at building new housing. And then to support the services that each of those centers does is important. Ultimately, they wanted to be self-sustainable and be less dependent on government subsidies. I don't know that we'll ever get there unless but you know, there's great potential here. So that's a very quick summary of the greenhouse and the Grow Erie project. INTAG, the scientists and the technology behind all of this, has been such a great partner through this whole thing. And they've determined that they actually want to move their operations to Erie, Pennsylvania. And they announced that a couple months ago. Yep, that is a good thing. So one of their employees is already here full-time, and the rest will be coming up shortly. Them moving here, they're going to set up on Savacchio Park. They'll lease a little bit of space from us where the fish tanks were going to originally go, and they're going to build their own 3,000 square foot facility for research. And then they'll donate those goods to the neighborhoods and the schools. So that's about a half a dozen or so jobs, all scientists, very high-end jobs. They're working with Brian back here to get some funding from the Ben Franklin Technology Group. But so everybody's involved in this project, right, across the board. But having these guys here is not only great that they've chosen Erie, and part of the reason they chose Erie was not just our partnership with them, but they think that they can work with the wineries and a lot of the other agriculture businesses here. In fact, Ed, who refuses to speak, had a visit from one of the wineries just earlier this week who's intrigued by the whole project. So we see their operation expanding as well. So we brought a new business in, we created a new business, we created jobs, we're keeping money in the community. We've cleaned up a dirty site. It's been, and we hope we are a catalyst for investment in that neighborhood. So that's it. Questions? Yes.
This is fascinating. I'm a huge, I grow a lot of vegetables, but I don't have anything like this, nor will I ever. But will you be offering tours to these facilities?
Yes.
All right. And number two, will you be able to grow things like the plants for like tomatoes or peppers or things like broccoli, cabbage, things like that nature?
So certain produce grows better than others in this environment, but and leafy greens and herbs grow the quickest and the easiest. But yes, we can grow almost anything. The city got donated to us about $250,000 worth of vertical growing. And we're going to do peppers and tomatoes in the verticals. So that'll be the next thing we do. But yes,
Do you have like the projected number of jobs down the road that, for people that will work in this facility? Is there like a projected number, Tina?
we think we've projected a dozen jobs when this is fully operational, because it's got to run 7 days a week and 2 shifts. So we're thinking about a dozen, and then as we add bays, there'll be additional jobs, obviously.
Well, this ought to make Curtsy happy, because this way they won't have to pay tariffs on anything coming from Mexico.
It makes this even more beneficial to them. Yes, Brian?
So we've talked about this a bunch. I think what's really fascinating is the ecosystem that gets created with this one golden spike that you've put in the ground. Can you talk a little bit about your vision for what happens once this is fully operational, the technology is up and running? What happens in the general business ecosystem, centered on Savacchio Park? You talked about businesses coming in and the other sorts of things. What's the roll-on effect?
Well, I think, with the remaining acreage that we have, we've been looking at greater opportunities in interviewing and meeting with several businesses to see what would make a fit within that neighborhood. We just don't want to put any business there that, just to take up space. We want them to be invested within the neighborhood and be able to hire from within the neighborhood also, and work with those within the neighborhood. So that will determine a lot about what business goes into, the rest of the acreage that we have, definitely.
And I think that INTAG's presence here will spur additional investment and growth, because as they work with the wine industry and other farmers and others, and they're going to do a lot of work with the schools. They already talked to this IU5 and the city school district about putting models in each of the schools to help train the kids and get the kids interested. I think that's where you'll see the real businesses pop up from this. We're looking for a grant for a small truck for deliveries, but we hope that as this grows, that we actually have to employ truckers or a trucking firm, right? So that businesses will spur from businesses. There's printing and there's labeling and there's packaging and there's all sorts of things that go into a business that when we started this, we weren't really thinking about. We're like, oh yeah, let's build a greenhouse. This will be fun. But we've been working with other local businesses on all these other things. So any new business spurs and increases businesses, has a ripple effect, right? This one, because it's a new industry, a new technology, it can go almost anywhere, which is the exciting thing. Yes, sir.
Can you tell us a little more about INTAG? Where are they from? They're coming to Erie. What kind of business is that?
So INTAG is it's considered a new business. It's a research company. They've patented this technology. So the primary scientists and probably Brian can give a better definition of INTAG, but the primary technology was discovered by a gentleman named Paul Nickerson, who we had hoped would be here today, because when he starts talking about it, it's just fascinating. They're based out of central Pennsylvania. They do a lot of work in the educational field. They've done work all over the world, primarily in Africa. And they have a commercial facility that's about 3 times the size of this one, operating in Canada. And they do a lot of work up in Canada. So this is the first commercial facility in the US. All of the science behind this, the fish waste, the processing, the bioreactor, all of that comes from them and the research they've done in the past. Is there something you want to add
No,
to
you
it?
said it exactly. They've got 2 lines of business. One is the hardware and the aquaponic infrastructure and making all of that work so that you can have the growing actually occur. So that's one line of business. But what they recognized was the earth is not producing enough calories for the number of people who are on the earth. And it's getting worse. And so what they've done is, okay, we know how to sort of do this aquaponically. How can we be better? And so Chris, who you saw on the picture with James and the other folks, reached out to his network of farming scientists and said, what can we do? And they've gone now through 4 stages of R&D. Their final stage of R&D really is through the balance of this year. And then they will begin to commercialize this biostimulant product that will be produced primarily here, literally globally, certainly regionally to start. So this is a second line of business. They've gotten significant investment from Canada. Thankfully, that occurred several years ago. And this could be, as I mentioned, this golden spike, this could be the place where those kinds of science and that kind of technology grows from, because the earth is starving and we need more quality produce and products and food to feed the billions of people that will be born over the next decade.
Yes.
Hold on, please. I'm coming. There you go, sir.
Fascinating. I'm so just 2 questions. One, what kind of jobs and titles, like in terms of pathway, how do you get to, I guess, where these folks are at? And I mean, it's been murmured, like at or slightly laughed at, but I mean, is this one of those new industries that can be wiped away? I mean, is it seen as a, is this new energy, or is this, I mean, do you understand what I'm asking? Like, is this, you mentioned, I mean, when you were talking that, thank goodness we got this in before, you know, so-and-so, and I don't see how anyone can argue against this, right? I mean, wind energy, things like that. I don't know how you argue against that stuff.
Yeah, I don't think this is going anywhere. I think this is growing. I mean, this is literally this technology is used all over the world. In the United States, is a little slow to catch up. So I mentioned that this equipment came from the Netherlands, from the Dutch. It's very advanced. The technology, the processing is very advanced. And the growing speed is really what's going to make this successful. The fact that we can turn over crops so quickly. I don't see it going anywhere. Our job is to make sure, their job is to make sure that the quality is always there and that it's going to move the product. I say I feel very vested in this, but I'm just, the Redevelopment Authority was just the builder of the project. It's really MCIC that is the we. But so Joe's a production manager. Is that your title? Something like that. These are all the growers, like assistant grower, growers. Those are the titles in the industry. their job, starting next week, is to literally plant the seeds and get the process to work to a point where we can produce crops every 5 to 7 days and move these through. So I don't think the technology is going anywhere. This is not something that's fleeting to your question. I think this is something that's here to stay and only has room to grow. So education, I think, is really the thing. Both Audie and Abby have degrees in bioscience, biochemistry. The idea and the commitment from INTAG to put mini units in all the schools, and they already do that down in the Harrisburg area, I think will be just open up the field. So middle schools, elementary schools, all will have small aquaponic centers. And that will get we hope, the young people interested in this as a career. Agriculture is not your grandfather's agriculture anymore, right? We used to say that about manufacturing. Manufacturing is not your grandfather's, shop. Well, it's the same with agriculture. So this is a burgeoning industry.
I understand that you have a distribution system for your product, but will you have a means for the community to be able to buy directly from you, or is that a competition with your distribution system?
No, because the distributors will be distributing, Curtsy, for example, distributes to restaurants and facilities like that, and they're absolutely fine, and that was something we talked about with us having other clients and direct to the public. We will eventually sell direct to the public, but that's not the first thing we're going to do. We've got to get it going first. Any other questions?
You may have answered this question already, but would this be considered organic produce?
So it's not quite organic, and I don't know why, but for some reason, again, this is a Paul Nickerson question. For some reason, there is, it doesn't meet the standards of organic, but it's the next level down. So it's cage-free, yes, it's cage-free. No other?
Thank you so much for this presentation, and it is so wonderful for Erie, so wonderful for the community. Now, did you say things are grown without pesticides?
That's correct.
And what about insect control?
That may be where the organic issue comes in, is that this is some sort of, what do they call this, Ed? An evaporator cooler. It's also got screens behind it to try to minimize pests from the outside, but we will occasionally need to do pest control, so that may be the organic issue. I can't remember completely, but as best we can, it's designed not to have any kind of pesticides. It'll have no chemicals at all, so it's as close as we can get, I guess.
I know this is sort of off topic, but would they ever consider building a biodigester to get rid of all the food that people just don't eat and just goes into the landfills?
Well, next year we'll bring the INTAG folks in. You can sell that to them. Food waste is a problem here, and we know that, but that's not what we do. It would be a good add-on. To James' point, maybe that would be a good fit for the park.
Because then what's from the biodigester could be used as fertilizer.
Well, this is,
I just mean for outside plants, not for your inside stuff,
right.
but for your outside
Right.
stuff.
yeah, for whatever reason, fish waste is the best fertilizer that you can find. So that's why it's designed as it is.
Do you have any, anything to do with worm farms?
No,
But that creates compost.
yes,
Okay. So that would, I guess, go with the food waste.
right.
So, but I've been long interested in worm farms, so I thought you might be doing that.
No, this was a major undertaking. I think everybody would agree. And it was a huge learning experience for us. The learning curve was high, not in the terms of building the building, although that was pretty complex. This is no ordinary greenhouse. It's highly controlled. It's got fans up top that run automatically. It's got this thing here, I can't remember the name again already. This was a huge undertaking and a huge learning curve. We're still learning, just building the floating ponds and the racks and the testing of the growing and getting the temperature and the lighting just right. It's way more complicated than any of us ever anticipated, wouldn't you say, James?
Yeah, you just don't put the seed in the ground and it grows. This is far greater than that,
Yeah.
these floating beds that we have.
It's really fascinating to see.
Yeah, I would encourage all of you to come out to our grand opening, even to come out and take a tour. You can arrange a tour through either one of our directors at our facilities, and we could take you through just to take a quick look. But we will be having a open house, ribbon cutting, once we get things all tight,
But worm farms, waste, all those other things, one thing at a time. Let us manage and figure this out first.
Yeah, this is our first introduction to this bioreactor thing, and it took us a while to really process that, the waste from fish being the nutrients for the growing the products, and the only thing that may have to be added to that, which shouldn't be, is iron, but outside of that, this is self-sustaining, and it will, have a great turnover rate, weekly.
So ultimately, once this is fully functional and it's running smoothly, we'll look at other opportunities that make sense, not just for the park and the community, but also meet the mission of MCIC, which is to give back. So,
Yeah, there will definitely be a education component so that we can link with either the universities or our high schools here in town.
so one more.
I'm so excited to see kind of the culmination of this project, having been involved with Urban Erie Community Development Corporation for almost 10 years. I had a hand in finding INTAG, writing some of the initial grants.
Veronica Rexford, everyone.
Hi. And to see the effect that it will have on the neighborhood, combined with not only revitalization of the Buffalo Road corridor, including Roger Young Park, but also the Burton Elementary School. We've made a tremendous amount of progress on that project recently, bringing in an architect from Pittsburgh, a Black woman-owned firm, Volsey Studios. We just met with people at Erie Insurance yesterday about furthering that project, and we want to have a component, and there will be a component in that building tying all of these things together. And the only question that I had is, do you have a number of the people without degrees that you will be able to hire from the neighborhood, perhaps from the New American Communities, to work in the facility?
I don't have a number of how many, but we have interviewed and will continue to interview from the neighborhood. Ed's been kind of the HR director on this, and he's interviewed several. And there's a few that, because it's so high tech, the first hires had to be folks that had that background. So, but eventually, yes, we'll be hiring at all different levels. So that's that's the mission of the MCIC, as you know, Veronica, and we're committed to that mission.
Hello, everyone. My name is Adi. This is my colleague Joe, and that's Abby. I wanted to quickly address the question she asked regards the pesticides. This is a controlled facility, and we understand that mistakes might happen also. In case of a pest infestation, we have plans to introduce like biological agents. So let's assume that we have like aphids infestation. We're going to introduce a different kind of insect, let's say like a beetle. So this beetle is going to feast on the eggs of those aphids and make them not be able to reproduce anymore. So there are plans like that. So instead of going for chemicals, we're going for like biological stuff. So it's going to be more like a predator-prey relationship without affecting the quality of whatever we're growing. I think that answers the question. Also, in terms of our question regards about the digester, right now we're using the fish waste, and the reason why we pick the fish waste is because apart from being economical, it also like gives a lot of nutrients to produce high quality yields for the plants. Then also, we need to like compare other factors with other kind of waste. Let's say like cow dungs, pig dungs. How much nutrients do they contain? We're talking about the nitrogen cycle. We're talking about the potassium. We're talking about the phosphorus. We're talking about magnesium. So right now we are currently working on using the fish waste because they contain more of those substances. And I hope that addresses your question too. Then also for his question, the man that sat behind us here that asked about the question relating to what kind of jobs, we need to understand that this is the foundation. And if with the vision, if everybody works together, it's going to be beyond whatever you may think. Now, let me put it to you. Right now, we are working as growers. And being growers is just a title, but we are also more of like a research scientist because over the past few weeks since I started working, we've been experimenting with different type of seeds, not limited to pea, the basil, and other spicy microgreens. So basically at this stage, we are trying to like compare what conditions are suitable for the growth of these leafy greens. We are looking at temperature, we are looking at humidity, and we are looking at whatever factors might be a limiting situation for the health of this plant. And I believe that with a couple of weeks of doing more research on this, we're going to come to a final stage where we know, oh, this is the amount of humidity based on the weather, because we know the Erie weather is very bad too. Today is nice. Tomorrow, I don't like it cold actually. So because of the weather too, there are also a lot of factors we need to like consider. Like a few weeks ago, we had some plants, they didn't do well because it was so cold, and we had to like increase the temperature, which affected the humidity. At other point, the temperature were nice, the seeds started growing well, but again, the weather went messy, and we had molds the next week. So we need to understand that it's not just about we being growers or the title we hold. All of us, we are all kind of like research scientists right now at this point. And with our wealth of experience, Abby, she has a degree in biochemistry, am I right? Yeah, biology. He has a degree in landscape horticulture. Then me, I have a degree in biochemistry, and I got my master's in environmental science. And the whole aim of this project, the reason why I liked it, and when I met Ed, was because we're talking about food security, we are talking about employment opportunities, and we are talking about building the next generation. So I feel like with these little points of mine, I've been able to like address a little bit of your concerns. Thank you.
Thank you. And there you have it, from the scientist's perspective.
Now you know why we hired them. Well, more? John, all right.
So I'm curious about the fish waste. It's coming from a hatchery, from?
To a trout hatchery, yes.
Okay. But you're still going to eventually plan to incorporate fish into this facility?
That was the original intention, and we hope we can get there, yes.
Okay.
But it was an additional $800,000. So we had to make a decision.
Yeah, so when we started this project out, it was a $3.2 million project. And with the escalation of cost of wood, cost of steel, cost of supplies, and so forth, that put the project up to where it is now. And so in order to continue forward, we had to put the fish part back on the back burner.
We're achieving the same goal,
Yes.
except that we're not rearing the fish on site.
Okay.
And the ultimate goal of that was that then we would be able to, after a certain period of time, sell or donate the fish to the community. So that's one piece of the big puzzle that's not there. But the ultimate research and functionality is the same.
I just mentioned too that it's very much a solar facility. It's not photovoltaic, but it's inherently a solar facility.
Our utility bills are going to be high, but not the electric bill for that reason. Well, I want to thank you all for coming. This is an unusually large crowd, so I appreciate your interest. And as James said, we will have an open house sometime in April, I hope. But in the meantime, if you want to see it, drive by, pop in. If someone's around, they'll give you a tour or give us a call, and we'll arrange something specific. So, yes.
Jan, hang on it.
Yes, I'll contact the Jefferson and we'll get something set up. Sure, be happy to do that. Well, thank you all very much.
Tina, thanks so much, James. We appreciate you.